What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and more importantly, maybe welcome back to another episode of how is this event going to affect the future of the Boston Red Sox, because we've had a lot of those this season. Whether we were talking about how injuries are going to affect the future of the Red Sox, how trades are going to affect the future of the Red Sox, or how extensions or lack thereof are going to affect the future of the Red Sox, it seems like a lot of what we've been talking about in 2022 is going to affect the club in 2023. Well, we've got another chapter to that story, because over this last series, there was a lot of stuff that happened both on the field and off the field that are going to affect this team now and possibly in the future as well. So that is what we were talking about today. We were talking about what happened this last weekend, how it affected this Red Sox team on and off the field, and what this means for the future of this Red Sox team. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps out a ton, would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. So what we normally do in series recaps is we talk about the offense separately, the pitching separately, then we come together and we talk about everything as a whole. But because there were so many events that took place off the field during this series, that I think it makes sense for us to do this in chronological order. So we're going to start with game one, because game one was an extremely typical Red Sox game, at least for the 2022 Red Sox. Michael Wacha, who's been our workhorse this entire year, continued to be our workhorse in this series. He went 7 innings, allowed only 1 run and struck out 4, but the Red Sox offense, being the 2022 Red Sox offense, was not able to put runners that were in scoring position across the plate. They were able to squeak out 2 in the 8th inning off of a walk by Alex Verdugo with the bases loaded, followed by a hit by JD Martinez. After that, Strahm and Whitlock took over and ended up closing this game down, which again, pretty typical Red Sox 2022 Red Sox game. Nothing really exciting coming out of that. However, after the game, it was announced that the Red Sox were going to DFA Kevin Plawecki. Now, I already made a video on my thoughts about this DFAing, so I'm not going to get too into detail about this, but what I will say is that I thought the move made sense, right? Connor Wong and Reese McGuire needed reps at that catcher position, and Kevin Plawecki was not going to be a part of the future of this Red Sox team. I did, however, note that this was going to probably throw a wrench in the locker room. Kevin Plawecki was one of those glue guys in this clubhouse, and it was going to affect this team, and that's important to remember as we move forward. Now, game 2, the Red Sox truly did not perform. They ended up getting skunked out 0-8, so there wasn't a ton of offense to talk about. Rich Hill only made it 4 2/3 innings and allowed 4 runs. Not exactly a fantastic outing by Rich Hill. One more thing to note in this series is Franklin Urman, the guy who was called up to replace Kevin Plawecki, is one of our top relief prospects in the Red Sox farm system, made his major league debut. It did not go as planned. He was not able to record an out and ended up with 4 earned runs. Now, I don't want you guys to panic on Franklin Herman yet. I think there's a ton of potential there. He really did have some great stuff. He just needs to work out some kinks, and that's why he's up here, to grow it at the major league level and see if he can produce at the major league level. This was his first outing. I'm expecting big things from Franklin Herman. Either way, it was a pretty bad loss for the Red Sox in the second game of the series. However, news broke after that game that before this game, where they lost 0-8, the night before, after Kevin Plawecki had been told that he was DFA'd, a lot of the Red Sox players and staff stayed with him in that clubhouse. They drank, they talked, they had a good time. They gave what they consider Kevin Plawecki proper goodbye. Now, I love this idea, mostly because as baseball players, they see these teammates more than they see their family. Because of the length of an MLB season, these teammates become their family. They become their brothers, right? So when a guy, especially like Kevin Plawecki, who's loved in the clubhouse, gets let go towards the end of a season, it's okay, especially if the games mean nothing, to give him a proper send-off. However, I did see some people online, it was noted by a lot of other analysts and commenters on the Boston Red Sox, that people were saying that, why are you doing this? You just barely won the first night. Then you come out and you get skunked the second game. Obviously, their late night partying is too much for this team to handle. Blah, 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 blah. I don't believe that, but I honestly thought that was the end of Kevin Plawecki affecting this Red Sox team, but it wasn't. Because before the third game of this series, Rich Hill and Eovaldi were outspoken about their disdain for the acts of the front office. Rich Hill talked about how much a guy like Kevin Plawecki means to this clubhouse and what it says to the players in this clubhouse when a guy like that is let go. Eovaldi Eovaldi even went so far to talk about other guys like Hunter Renfroe and Kyle Schwarber and how much those guys meant to a clubhouse and how much he disdained the idea of we needed to look at numbers as opposed to chemistry on a baseball team. And those are some pretty heavy words from a guy who has been here for a very long time. Luckily, though, it did not affect the Red Sox immediate gameplay because they came out and had themselves a day against the Kansas City Royals. Rafael Devers, Tommy Pham, and Reese McGuire combined for 10 hits and 8 RBIs. I would go into every single RBI in this game, but we would be sitting here for 30 minutes, and no one wants to look at this face for 30 minutes. In other news, Xander Bogaerts had his 1400th hit in a Red Sox uniform. He is just the 4th player to do that under 30 years old. I am so sick and tired of every other series talking about some Red Sox milestone that Xander Bogaerts has hit, and then I turn this camera off and I don't know if he's gonna be here in 2, 3, 4 weeks or 2, 3 months, right? It's so disheartening to me, and that is something we're going to talk about in a second. Nick Pivetta actually pitched well in this game. He ended up going 5 innings. He struck out 7, allowed 3. Pretty solid start from Nick Pivetta. Again, another guy whose arc really needs to improve as we go into the 2023 season. All in all, after those comments by both Nate Eovaldi and Rich Hill, the Red Sox were still able to absolutely wall up the Kansas City Royals 13-3. But the most interesting part of this game came after the game ended, where the Red Sox decided to celebrate this win, where they absolutely beat down on the Kansas City Royals, who just simply aren't a good ball club. And their way of celebrating was to play Dancing on My Own very loudly for the first time this entire year. For those of you who do not know, Dancing on My Own was Kevin Plawecki's walk-up song. It was also the anthem to the 2021 playoffs. That is clearly not a coincidence. But all in all, this series in general had a lot of really interesting things that happened off the field that, in my opinion, affected on-field play as well as going to affect the future of this Red Sox team. And I don't know if these outspoken talks of having no chemistry in the clubhouse and how important chemistry is should come as a surprise to anyone, right? Vasquez talked about it before the trade deadline. Xander talked about it. Now Rich Hill and Nate Eovaldi are talking about it, because if you look at the Red Sox clubhouse, right, you've got a bunch of new faces. You've got guys who are veterans and leaders in this clubhouse who have no idea what their future is. They have guys on the back end of their careers, guys in the middle of their careers, guys at the beginning of their careers, and it doesn't seem like there's any cohesive energy in that clubhouse at all. It hasn't felt like that the entire season. With players being so outspoken, it's clearly obvious that that has been going on for a while now. And in my opinion, this was a boiling point. I don't know if Kevin Plawecki himself leaving is really truly a tipping point for a lot of players on this team, but I do know that, combined with the fact, like Nate Eovaldi said, that they've been getting rid of guys who they consider to be glue guys for the last year and a half, is going to affect this club in some way, and it's not a positive one. The problem is, how do you go about fixing it, right? There isn't really a true answer to that question. You can't just bring back everybody who doesn't perform in a baseball uniform because they're good clubhouse guys. I love Kevin Plawecki to death, and I know how much he meant to this team, but he was not going to be a part of the 2023 team. His statistics just simply were not there to be a productive member of this team. So it makes sense to make that move and get someone else up here who could possibly make an impact on the 2023 team. But at the same time, you're diminishing your veterans, your leaders, the guys in the clubhouse who keep this team together, and you're making them upset. It's a fine line to toe. And I think the players in this clubhouse don't believe that Chaim Bloom in the front office have the ability to toe that line and put together a team, a baseball team that is cohesive and can win. Because when you're looking at a baseball team, especially baseball compared to other sports, right, you need to have sort of that perfect mix, and it goes back to the length of the season. You need to have that perfect mix of veterans. You need to have the perfect mix of all-stars, superstar players, right? You need to have the potential amazing prospects, the guys who are coming up who can learn from these guys, and you need to have the glue guys. The only true way to fix this team is to completely overhaul this team, and that just simply isn't possible because there are pieces on this team that the Red Sox need to have if they want to do that. You need to have guys like Xander and possibly Nate Eovaldi, Michael Wacha, guys like that who have been here, have done that, and have done it at a pretty elite level. And guys like that might not want to play for a team like the Boston Red Sox when they don't appreciate the way that the front office is going, or they don't appreciate the way that the front office handles the chemistry of a baseball team. And that's a problem that I don't know how the Red Sox are going to fix, and I don't know how that's going to respond when it comes to free agent time. Are guys not going to want to come back? I don't know. Maybe this whole thing's an overreaction. It could be that case too, right? It could be the fact that, hey, dummies, if you guys wanted to keep Kevin Plawecki, play better, and then Kevin Plawecki would have stayed on this team and we would have been going towards October. Maybe that's part of it too. I'm not sure. All I know is that chemistry is an important part of any baseball team, and if you don't have that, regardless of how good you are on the field, aka the Los Angeles Angels, right? They have two of the best players in the world, but they simply don't have a cohesive team, and they have a losing record year in and year out. Chemistry is so important to a baseball team, and when that is affected in a negative way, that has to be one of your top priorities to fix. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you make of all this? What do you make of all this off-field drama? What do you make of the way it's going to affect this Red Sox team going forward? Do you think it's an overreaction? Do you think it's an underreaction? It means more. Do you think I'm reacting properly? Let me know all your thoughts on this down below. As always, if you've made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day, like I said at the beginning. Plus, you made it to the end of this video, you might as well hit that like button as well. Helps these videos out a ton. Would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seat.